it feels like Andrew's come up a lot more than anyone else. Was he just like the best buddy of Epstein?
He was certainly one of the best buddies of Epstein. And if you look at the address book that Epstein had, I mean, my word, it's the directory of the rich and famous across the world. I mean, you have to take your hat off in one sense to Epstein because he managed to accumulate all these people as contacts. And indeed, the address book he had included other people from this country, leading politicians from this country. So, I mean, he's managed to accumulate all these people. Now, Andrew appears a number of times. The phone book that Epstein had a different number for Andrew, a number of different numbers, including private numbers at Buckingham Palace and private numbers at Sandringham. So he was extremely close to Epstein. And, of course, he was very close to Ghislaine Maxwell, who, as we know, was convicted of acting effectively as a sort of person who secured and procured underage girls for Epstein.
This seems like a running pattern. I'm thinking of Savile as well, in terms of using the royals to gain status while hiding heinous crimes with underage people.
Yes, I think that's right. And it's not unusual to try to attach yourself to a very famous person because it gives you some protection from interference from the police or anyone else. Not legally, of course, but in terms of people not wanting to take a risk by pursuing matters. Savile, of course, was known to be engaging in grotesque behaviour back in the 1980s. I spoke to the leading lawyer for British Rail, because Savile used to be used by British Rail for their adverts, and British Rail dropped him in the 1980s because they had allegations put to them that Savile had been having procreation with their dead bodies in the morgue. And at that point, they dropped him. Now, that was in 1980-something, and yet it took till after his death before this came out. But the BBC, for example, knew about Savile because he was kept off Children in Need quite deliberately. And, of course, the BBC did nothing about it until ITV actually published or produced a programme on Savile. Now, as you say, he used the royal family. He became very close to Charles. He actually advised, this is unbelievable, really, he advised Charles and Diana on their marriage. He advised Charles and Camilla on their relationship. God knows how he felt qualified to do that. He was given personal gifts by Charles. Charles visited him in his cottage. And when he died, Charles and Camilla were the lead mourners for Savile. And Charles was warned about Savile a number of times, and he thought this was jealousy, and there's nothing wrong with the man. But, I mean, actually, Charles has shown some really bad judgment over the years, because Savile's not the only person of importance, if you like, who wanted to attach himself to Charles. We saw it with Kenneth Lay, the Enron guy, who got some coverage out of Charles, and eventually, of course, the thing went body up, put it that way.
Who's that?
It was Enron's big company in America, and Kenneth Lay was the chief executive, and the company was basically unsound. And Charles gave it some credibility by associating with Kenneth Lay, who invited him over to his place in America and everything else. So Charles has shown some bad judgments. He was also great friends with the Bishop of Lewis, as was Peter Ball, who admitted abusing boys. He had got a caution from the police for that. Charles continued to associate with him after he'd received a caution. And when it was put to him many years later, he said he didn't understand what a caution was. I find it very difficult to believe he didn't understand what a caution was.
So that leads to my next question then. With Andrew and Charles, is this a case sometimes of stupidity and ignorance, or not caring about the misdeeds of, say, Jeffrey Epstein?
I think it's willing to see people through the prism that you want to see them through, as opposed to the prism that actually exists, and not being prepared to listen to other people who have your best intentions at heart and are prepared to tell you the truth. To ignore that because it doesn't suit the image you've created in your own mind. But I mean, the reluctance of kings, if you like, of dictators around the world to listen to advice is legendary, and quite often, of course, in medieval times and onwards, including with dictators now in different parts of the world, if they are told what they don't want to hear, then the person who tells them is quietly disposed of.
With Andrew, though, I suppose he can't really plead that kind of ignorance or wishful thinking, because he was allegedly engaging in the very activities that we know Epstein was doing.
Yes. Well, I mean, as I understand it, Prince William, was pretty anti his uncle and wanted him kept out of the loop. And I think Harry was also of the same mind. And it was Charles who was more willing to tolerate his brother.
Wow. That's interesting. So and why might that be? Because I have heard that, Andrew, aside from the Epstein allegations, is also a pretty horrible character. Just that's the opinions of
various people. Andrew is horrible to his staff. I mean, the legendary, the abuse he shouts at his staff, shouts at police officers when he arrives at Buckingham Palace. When he arrived at Buckingham Palace and the gates weren't open immediately, he would then abuse the police down the phone. The famous episode in Windsor Great Park when the gates didn't open, which has been humorously called Gate, when he, rather than just taking a short detour to his house, rammed these gates until they opened with his Range Rover, caused, I think it was £80,000 of damage, which the taxpayer picked up because it was money paid for by the Crown Estate, and the Crown Estate that came off the Crown Estate's profits, which goes to the Treasury.
I suppose we should get into what Andrew has actually been doing on Epstein Island, or what we imagine he's been doing. What's actually going on?
Well, it's not entirely clear what's been going on. We have various accounts which are contradictory. His own account, of course, is the kind of Manuel excuse, I know nothing, which bears little scrutiny, to be honest with you, because he's been photographed with Epstein in New York and Central Park, apart from anything else. We know from the plane logs he's been to this island of his, this disreputable island, on many occasions. The latest information that came out suggested he'd received massages regularly at his house. So all those have been put in the public domain. Virginia Giuffre, of course, has made many allegations. Andrew denied them vehemently. He then paid her off, I think, was it £12 million?
Something.
I have to say it's quite extraordinary to give £12 million to a woman you never met, which is allegedly what he's doing. I've never met Prince Andrew, so perhaps you give me £12 million as well. Yeah. So, I mean, the whole thing is just stinks to high heaven, to be perfectly frank with you.
How much is £12 million for a man like Andrew?
Well, it's difficult to know because, of course, the royal family keeps their money details very secret indeed. And when parliamentarians have tried to find out how much the royal family has, they're not told, because the royal family always pleads poverty. We're running out of money. We have to sell a castle or something. And then Parliament says, well, how much have you got? We don't say. So they never reveal this. And they've exempted themselves largely from the Freedom of Information Act, so we can't really find out. It's quite extraordinary and unbelievable, really, when you compare our monarchy with other monarchies in terms of how secret they are and how rich they are. But Andrew was making a comfortable living, I think, from his activities with dubious dictators around the world.